Okay, we need to talk about SQL joins. So when we have data and we've done the work to put it into first, second, third normal form or to a higher normal form, like we talked about last week, we're going to end up with different tables. So this picture is a picture of the data that we're going to use for the lab this week. It's a database that contains information about all the works by Shakespeare. So we have tables for the individual works by Shakespeare, a table for the characters that appear in any of the Shakespearean plays, a table for the chapters, that is the acts and scenes of the Shakespearean plays, and then a table for the paragraphs, that is the individual lines of dialogue from the Shakespearean plays. Now, when we have a database like this, each table has a primary key that uniquely identifies the rows in that table. But different tables also have foreign keys. So if you look at characters, the primary key is a character ID, but the characters are present in a work, right? So Prospero is in The Tempest, right? And so here we have, for a foreign key, works, which matches to work ID, the primary key in the works table. So we have primary keys and we have foreign keys. Now, matching a primary key to a foreign key is how we put the data back together. So instead of 4 different tables, we can use any of the information from any of the 4 tables and put them into one data frame at the end of this. And the goal is always to get one data frame with all of our working data so that we can do a subsequent analysis of that data. Joining tables is the act of adding columns to an existing table. That is, adding more features to existing records by matching the rows in one table to the corresponding rows in another table. Now, it's like I just said, you have to match a foreign key in one table to a primary key in another table. Those 2 keys are called indices when we're talking about an SQL join. And now there are many different kinds of SQL joins. The main difference between the types of joins comes in how they treat unmatched records. Now, we'll talk about what that means in just a minute. So the first kind of SQL join is called an inner join. An inner join only keeps the records that exist in both tables. So, as an example, you can see this in the notebook, I created a database of professional sports teams in the NFL and NBA in the different cities in the United States. And some cities have an NFL team but no NBA team. And some cities have an NBA team but no NFL team. And some cities have both. And so we have, if we're going to join the NFL data and the NBA data, we're going to have some cities that match, and we're going to have some cities that do not. An inner join only keeps the cities that match. And so here's an example. So select star from NFL. We're going to talk about what select star means later in this module. But basically, this means give me all the columns. We're starting with the NFL data, and then we're going to inner join to that the NBA data. On NFL.city equals NBA.city. And so you can see here we have the NFL cities and we have the NBA cities. And we are matching Miami to Miami, Boston to Boston, New York to New York. That's what it means to join. Now, the rows that appear are rows only for the cities that have both, right? So Miami has the Dolphins and the Heat, so it exists in the data. But a city like Pittsburgh would not appear here because while Pittsburgh has a football team, they do not have an NBA team. So inner join is only going to give us the cities that have both a football team and a basketball team. Now, before talking about the other joins, we can talk about aliasing. So to alias a data table in an SQL join means you're going to use a letter to represent that data table. You're going to use that letter throughout the query. So the same exact query that I just showed you is this with aliases. So the only difference here is that I've aliased the NFL data frame as F, and I've aliased the NBA data as B. And that way, later when I refer to columns from those data tables, F.city, that means from the NFL, and B.city means from the NBA. So this is the exact same thing. So when you see this notation of single letters, you're going to know what it means. Okay, a left join. A left join keeps all the records in the first table listed, but it only keeps the records in the second table that have matches in the first. So if I write left join instead of inner join, and I use the exact same query otherwise, it's going to include every single city with an NFL team, including, say, Pittsburgh, right? But it's not going to include cities that have a basketball team but no NFL team. So it shows us cities that are unmatched in one direction but not the other. So we can have the football cities with no basketball team, but no basketball cities with no football team. That's a left join. Now to go in the reverse direction, we could use a right join. Keep all the records in the second table listed, but keep only the records in the first table that have matches. And so if we do the exact same thing, but with right join, then we see we've got now cities like Brooklyn. I'm counting Brooklyn as different from New York City. So Brooklyn has the Nets, but it doesn't have the Jets and Giants. Right? Toronto has an NBA team, but it has no NFL team. They've got a CFL team, but no NFL team. So that's left join and right join. Now a full join keeps all the records in both tables, whether they are matched or not. And so here, and this is just a select. This isn't all of the data. This is just a selection. So we have cities like Cincinnati that have a football team, but no basketball team. And then we've got cities like Milwaukee, which have a basketball team but no football team. That's a full join. Anti-join. Now, anti-join is not an SQL clause. It's something that you have to piece together from other SQL clauses. But the idea of an anti-join is to keep only the records in the first table that have no match in the second table. So when the syntax for an anti-join is to use left join and then to use a where clause, and we're going to talk more about where clauses in a minute, to say where the city from the second data frame is null. So where the ID from the second data table listed is not present. And so this is going to give me all the cities that have a football team but no basketball team. And so we have Kansas City, Las Vegas, etc. A cross join is not one you're going to use all that often, but it's good to know about. It's going to combine the rows in one table with every single row in the other table in a round robin kind of way. It's going to give you all pairwise combinations of rows. And so you don't have to write on because there's nothing to match to. It assumes you're going to match each row to every row in the other one. So take all the data from NFL, cross-join it to NBA, and this is what we get. So the Bills pop up first. So the Bills compared to Boston, the Bills compared to the Knicks, the Bills compared to the 76ers, and it's going to go on and on and on. And then we might have the Cleveland Browns next, the Browns compared to the Celtics, the Browns compared to the Knicks. And that's a cross join. It explodes the number of rows because if we have if we have a certain number of rows from NFL and a certain number of rows from NBA, we're going to have those two numbers multiplied together as a number of rows from the cross join. And then it's worth a minute to talk about natural joins. So natural joins are the same as any of the joins that we've just talked about, but there's no need to specify the indices as these are determined automatically by finding columns with the same name. So if we have city in NFL and we have city in NBA, it's going to see that and it's going to assume that city is what we want to match on. And so it saves us a line of code. We don't have to write on. it's also going to display just that one city column and not two city columns, which is pretty nice. If there are no columns that share the same name, a natural join performs a cross join instead. And if there's more than one pair of columns that share the same name, it's going to assume that all the columns that share a name between the two tables are ones you want to match on. That might not be correct. And so it could easily corrupt a query, and it will never display an error. So use caution. The worst kinds of errors are the ones that happen without telling you anything. There's a lot of debate on the internet about whether natural joins are ever justified. I found one person on Stack Overflow say that at his company, using natural joins was grounds for dismissal. I think that's a little extreme, but just keep that in mind with natural joins. Be very careful when you use them. Finally, multiple joins in one query work like this. So the query will execute the first join it sees, produce a result, and then join that output table to the next one that you specify in the second join if requested. And so here's code to look at that. So I created a third table for baseball team. So I start by selecting everything from the NFL, joining it to the NBA, and now I have an inner join of the cities with both an NFL and an NBA team. So now with this inner join table, I'm going to inner join that joined table to the Major League Baseball table. Again, joining on city, and again doing an inner join. What this is going to give me is a data table of all the cities that have both a football and a basketball and a baseball team. Okay, so here we have Boston with the Patriots, the Celtics, and the Red Sox.